Hi, and welcome to Let's Talk with the Morris County Chamber of Commerce. I'm Mike Stanzilis, Vice President of Membership and Business Development for the Chamber. And today we have with us Senator Anthony Bucco Jr. of the Legislative District number 25. And Senator Bucco, thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
It's an honor to be with you, always.
Great, well, thank you. So let's just get right to it. Today, you rolled out your plan for economic recovery. And we really, we're very fortunate to work with you as a chamber on this plan. So tell us a little bit about what the plan says and what your goals are.
Sure. First, let me say this. It's not my plan. It's our plan. 3 weeks ago, maybe now, I contacted the chamber in the hopes of getting some help in reopening the economy. I recognized back then that if this shutdown prolonged, we would have a tremendous impact on our economy and on our unemployment system. And I asked the chamber to establish a committee for me to get some advice, a committee, independent committee of nonpartisan experts that could look at this situation and look at the various segments of the economy and tell us how we could safely and quickly reopen. And that task force came together. It was chaired by Bruce Groves and a number of other just great business leaders around Morris County and around the state. And today's plan that they rolled out is evidence of the work that they put in to show that the economy can reopen and it can reopen safely. And the report focused on two things. One is the current state of affairs, the facts, and the other is science. So the conclusions that were reached in this report are both facts and science-based. And I think that's important. You know, the governor often talks about taking actions based on the facts and science. And what this report did is look at the facts and science for this particular region and has suggested that that the economy can be reopened now and probably should have been reopened a couple of weeks ago on a phased-in basis. So we're already a couple of weeks behind schedule. One of the most compelling things, I think, that report concluded is that 80% of the businesses that are now closed are less risky operations than those businesses that are now open. And that says an awful lot, because if we have the most riskiest businesses now open, the grocery stores, the Walmarts, if those businesses are now open and we continue to flatten the curve, then surely we can open up our main streets and keep flattening that curve under safe conditions, and people can get back to work. And that's really what we need here in the state of New Jersey right now.
That's great. You know, you're speaking truly to data, and that 80% is really it's quite a takeaway from these findings. Is there anything that the residents need to know about reopening in terms of taking responsibility for any of this at all?
Well, one of the things that the report showed is that each particular segment of the economy has a risk factor, right? And those risk factors are based on the number of customers that may be coming into a particular business, the ability to social distance, the amount of time that employees and customers remain in contact with each other. And based on those risk factors, we can open up the economy provided we have protocols established to make sure that people are taking the precautions necessary to not only keep their employees safe, but their customers safe as well. So I think people need to recognize that if we open up the economy, they're going to have to live with maybe a few changes. One is potentially wearing a mask when you go into a local store. The other is maybe the amount of occupancy may be limited So you may have to, instead of a store being allowed by fire code to have 100 people in it, maybe they're only going to be allowed to have 75 or 50. All of those can be based on that particular industry's acceptable protocols for what they need to do to keep people safe in this environment. So this report sets that out. It sets minimum standards of cleaning, minimum precautions that have to be taken for different industries, and I think it's really important. You know, over the last couple of weeks, I've heard from many businesses across the state of New Jersey, but especially here in Morris County and in Somerset County. And many of these small businesses have already made decisions that their businesses won't reopen. And some are on the brink of making that decision now. We need to give those folks hope. We need to be there as a state to give them the ability to further their dream, to keep their businesses alive, and to allow them to provide for their families. We've seen crushing numbers in the unemployment claims across the state, over 1 million people now. In order to help stop that bulge in the system, we need to start putting people back to work, but we need to do it safely. And this report shows that based on the science, we can do it safely and we can do it quickly. And I think that that's where we ought to be headed.
Yeah, absolutely. The state closed based on science, and as I've heard you say, the state should reopen based on science, which is a great thing. In
fact, today, I think today the governor started to talk about a phased reopening plan, and he talked about risk factors, which is what our report is based on. But one thing that we differ with him on is he's saying that the risks are still too high. And I think what our folks and what our experts found based on the facts, the current state of affairs here in Morris County, that that may not necessarily be the case. That we've seen that the numbers are dropping, the curve is flattening, and we can open up this economy here in Morris County a lot quicker. And I think that says something. You know, the governor often talked about a regional approach. He talked about bringing in other states and, coordinating opening of the economy. But that doesn't seem to be what he's doing now. It seems to be like he's pulling the trigger on different businesses all across the state, whereas I think he should be looking at the facts and the figures and the science in the particular regions of the state to make sure that that he doesn't slow one area of the state down because there's one last bit of the state that may need another week or two. A good example of that is we saw that the virus started in northern New Jersey and has worked its way down to South Jersey. Now that northern New Jersey has been through the peak, and in fact, we're probably 2 weeks past the peak, that doesn't necessarily mean that South Jersey has done the same. So I think we've got to look at each region and apply these facts and science to the reopening plan.
So you support making the state a regionalized reopening plan as opposed to one plan, one state?
Well, I think there's a couple of things here that I support. One is I think it's got to be based on the facts and the science. The other thing I think we've got to look at is the facts in the particular region that you're going to make the decision. And the other thing I think we have to do is give these businesses some time before we pull the trigger. In other words, we're waking up, turning on the TV, and at 1 o'clock, the governor's coming on and saying, today I'm going to open up boat rentals. Then all of a sudden now a business is faced with having to scramble to get everything together in order to open up that business safely. So I think we got to have a little bit better planning in terms of the timing of the rollout. And I think that's incumbent on the administration to do that, to give people a little bit more time.
Yeah, no last minute, because everybody needs to hire up. I know here in our town, they're looking to hire lifeguards, which, came at the last minute, request. So we have with us Ed Ramirez, who's the Chamber of Commerce Economic Development corporation guy. And Ed has some questions that have come in online. A couple questions come in yet?
Yes, sir. Well, Senator, one of the questions that we have here, when will hair salons be able to reopen?
Well, I think that I've spoken to a number of salon owners, and they are right now preparing to reopen. They are adjusting their establishments. They're putting in equipment. They're sanitizing, and they're getting ready for this phased-in approach. And I think that based on what we're seeing, they should probably be open now. But they have to be open with a protocol, and many of the segments of the economy are preparing protocols that would meet minimum standards for sanitation, for cleaning, for staffing, for appointment process, and all of those things can be done, and if followed, the salons can open safely. And I think it's incumbent upon those industries to put those plans together so that they can be reviewed and accepted, and then they can reopen. So I think based on what we've seen so far in terms of the numbers and in terms of the facts and the science, I think we're there.
That's great, yeah, because we could all use a haircut.
Yeah,
Ed, we have time for one more question from the audience. Is there another question, Ed?
Yes. Are schools going to open in the fall?
I think they are. I mean, I hope they are. This is something that we really need to look at seriously. You know, some of the younger grades, and let me tell you, the teachers have done a phenomenal job. I can't say enough about the education system here in New Jersey. The teachers, this was kind of thrown on them, right? All of a sudden, the schools closed, and the principals and superintendents were saying, okay, now you got to teach from home. Well, let me tell you, it's hard enough to be a teacher in the school, because I've done it. I've been a teacher for the day a few times, and it's tough enough to be a teacher in the school setting. I can't imagine how hard it is to do it over the internet, and they've done a great job. But the fact of the matter is, having our young folks obtain their education over the computer isn't easy, and they're missing out on socialization skills. They're missing out on a whole bunch of things that are important for their development, and they get that in school, right? So I think that it's very, very important that we make sure that when school starts, that we have some testing procedures to make sure that the kids are continuing to grow, and to see where they may need some extra help as a result of not being in school for 2 months, 3 months. But I do think it's vitally important to get them back to school in September, if not before.
That's great. Thank you. And thank you, Ed, for being the moderator of the online questions. So, Senator, there seems to be a fair number of other committees and plans coming around the state, which are all great, and everybody's got great ideas and they're motivated. What's the how are they going to work together, and how is the governor going to take these and sort of, you know, codify them into a plan that works for all of us, if anything?
Well, I think, listen, everybody's got to have an open mind, right? You know, this report that we put together is, at least as far as I know and I've seen, the first report that deals with science and facts, that melds the two together, that looks at industry standards for risk factors for those particular industries. So I hope that as these reports get disseminated, that people look at them, that the ones that they feel are good, that they promote, and I hope that the governor receives them with an open mind. I intend to send our report to the governor, to the Senate president, and to the speaker, and asking them to please consider this as we move forward, because this will have a tremendous impact. If the economy remains closed much longer, it's going to have a tremendous impact, but it has a ripple effect. We've already seen the loss of revenue at the state level. We've seen the large numbers of unemployed and the claims to the UI fund. And think about what the loss of revenue at the state level does. That impacts school funding. municipal aid, help in charity care. So all of those things are downstream that will be impacted, and that could end up requiring taxes to be raised. And let me tell you, the last thing and we need in this state is to make it any more unaffordable.
Mm-hmm.
So we really need to get this economy going. We really need to make this a priority. And I think this report has what it takes to show that it can be done safely and quickly.
Excellent. Yeah, safely and quickly. Those are two key words. So we're coming to the close here, but I just want to ask you sort of one fun question, and that is, now that we've been quarantined for almost 3 months, what is it that you miss most out there? What are you going to do when we get back out to the new normal?
Boy, I think just being around other people. I mean, I really miss the socialization of, being able to talk to folks one-on-one. Look, I'm having a great time on this Zoom stuff, but there's nothing like being out and talking to someone and really feeling their body language and understanding, exactly where they're at. And I miss that. I spend a lot of time out and about in my district, and that's been the one thing that I really missed, not being able to, really have my pulse on what's going on. I have to get it through meetings like these and through telephone calls, and you really don't get it as much, and you don't have as much interaction as you would in a normal setting. And that's what I really miss a lot.
Yeah, well, we look forward to getting back out there and reconnecting with you in person. And we really want to thank you for your work and what you've done here. Again, it's Senator Anthony Bucco Jr. of LD25, and putting out there a data-driven, risk-based approach to reopening the state. And we also want to thank our sponsor. Without our sponsor, this wouldn't be possible, and that's Emilcott, and that's under the leadership of Bruce Grove. So we want to thank Emilcott so much for helping us make this happen. And to our Chamber of Commerce membership, thank you for everything you do.
Thank you.
Thank you.